The China-US trade war escalates again. On April 10, 2025, China announced it would increase tariffs on imported U.S. goods to 84%, directly responding to the U.S.'s 100% reciprocal tariffs on Chinese goods. How will this smokeless war evolve? How will the economic game between the two sides impact the globe? Today, we delve into an in-depth analysis of China's countermeasures and the strategic considerations behind them. According to the announcement from the Customs Tariff Commission of the State Council of China, starting from 12:01 p.m. on April 10, the tariff rate imposed on imported goods originating from the United States will be increased from 34% to 84%, directly matching the scale of the previous U.S. tariff hike on Chinese goods. This decision is a firm response to the unilateral action taken by the U.S. on April 8. The U.S. side, on top of the original 34% tariff, added an additional 20% punitive tariff, citing ineffectiveness in combating fentanyl, pushing the total tariff rate on some Chinese goods to 100%. China's Ministry of Commerce clearly stated that the U.S. actions constitute unilateral bullying and seriously violate WTO rules. In addition to tariffs, China simultaneously launched 3 key countermeasures. Export controls. 12 U.S. high-tech companies were added to the control list, restricting their access to Chinese dual-use items. Sanctions on companies involved in arms sales to Taiwan. 6 U.S. companies participating in arms sales to Taiwan were listed as unreliable entities. WTO litigation. China has filed an additional lawsuit with the World Trade Organization regarding the U.S. tariff measures. Among these countermeasures, the one receiving the most international attention is China's further control over rare earth exports. Rare earths are core materials for manufacturing high-tech products such as electric vehicles and military magnets, and China controls 70% of global rare earth production and 90% of processing capacity. Although not a full embargo, export restrictions on heavy rare earths like samarium, dysprosium have already put the U.S. in a passive position. Experts point out that although the U.S. has restarted domestic mines, the processing stage still relies on China, making it difficult to escape supply chain risks in the short term. China's advantage in the rare earth sector is not just resources, but a complete industrial chain. If the U.S. wants to break free from this dependency, it will need at least 5 to 10 years. The U.S. side claims the tariff increase is to force China back to the negotiating table, but the Chinese side emphasizes that there are no winners in a trade war, and the countermeasures are to safeguard sovereignty and development interests. On the political level, the U.S. is targeting the midterm elections, attempting to consolidate votes in agricultural states through tariffs. China, by hitting agricultural imports, directly targets Trump's core voter base. On the economic level, high tariffs will push up U.S. consumer goods prices and exacerbate inflationary pressures. Meanwhile, China is reducing external dependence and enhancing its resilience to countermeasures through its internal circulation strategy. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) warns that China and the U.S. account for 43% of the total global economy, and an escalation of the trade war could trigger a global recession. Chain reactions such as supply chain restructuring and the dumping of goods into third countries are already beginning to emerge. Countries are urgently assessing the impact of the trade war. The EU worries about the impact of diverted Chinese goods on its domestic market. Southeast Asian countries are trying to find a balance between China and the U.S. Although China is resorting to the WTO dispute settlement mechanism, the effectiveness of the multilateral system has already been weakened by long-term U.S. obstruction of judicial appointments. Behind the tariff war lies a struggle for technological dominance in global order. China has stated its position with reciprocal countermeasures, but can both sides stop at the brink? Can the global economy withstand the cost of decoupling? Please continue to follow our channel for in-depth analysis. Like and subscribe so you don't miss the latest developments in the China-US trade war. The comments section is open for discussion. Which side do you think will compromise first?